Hello and welcome back to Matthew's Tottenham Blog and to another Tottenham transfer roundup with a lot of news to get through again today as Tottenham grow increasingly confident of completing a deal to sign Richarlison, while the Spanish media are very, very open about the fact that Tottenham could be close to signing Clement Longley as well. That sentiment doesn't really seem to be echoed on the English side of this deal, but we'll go through all of those reports, and if you in the live chat want me to, we'll run through an analysis piece on Clement Longley as well. If you are watching live, there's a poll there in the live chat if you want to let me know if you do want us to go through that analysis piece or not. If you are watching on the replay, let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on Clement Longley. Make sure to smash that like button if you're looking forward to this stream, and as always, if you do want more of this content throughout the summer transfer window, please do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and click that notification bell so you get notified every time we upload or go live. But let's dive straight into it with the latest updates on Richarlison. We know he's Tottenham's #1 attacking target, and Alistair Gold has said there's a growing confidence within Tottenham Hotspur that Richarlison will join from Everton to boost Antonio Conte's squad. We reported yesterday from Bruno Andrade that Richarlison has agreed. It seems to be kind of preliminary agreements on a 5-year deal for Spurs, and Fabrizio Romano has told us today as well that personal terms simply will not be an issue for Richarlison in this move. Pankaj, good to see you live, my friend. Niall as well, good to see you. A few channel members too, thank you all for tuning in. Alistair Gold has said talks between the two clubs are understood to be progressing positively, and there is a growing belief within Spurs that the 25-year-old will be linking up with Conte's squad for pre-season in the weeks ahead. So we know that Antonio Conte has really all along wanted these deals to be done as early as possible. He's wanted a lot of these players to be joining the squad for pre-season, and it looks as though Richarlison will be one of those. Again, for me, I kind of expect that the majority of this deal will be done, maybe even wrapped up behind the scenes by the end of this week. I think this is one that Tottenham are moving very quickly on, and there's no surprise with that really. We've gotten almost a clean run on him with the interest that Chelsea have in Rafinha and Sterling, with Arsenal getting Jesus and failing to get Rafinha as well. We've had a clean run, and it looks as though it's going to be one that is very successful as well. Matt Law has echoed what Alistair Gold said. He's told us that Tottenham are growing in confidence that they can seal a deal to sign Richarlison from Everton, with the player keen on joining Antonio Conte's squad. Champions League football, of course, a massive pull for Richarlison. If we weren't in there, maybe we still could have got a deal over the line, but Champions League football, as I think with a lot of players that we might target from non-Champions League clubs this summer, will be a decisive factor, and it's one of the many positive aspects that we have over Arsenal at the moment. With regards to how this deal could be structured, which I think is what is making this drag on, because Everton want a deal, Tottenham want a deal, and as we know, Richarlison wants the deal as well. So it's how this is going to be paid, the amount that is going to be paid, whether there'll be players going in the opposite direction. That seems to be what is keeping this one from being completed at this point. And Matt Law has reported that Everton value Richarlison at over £50 million, as we knew all along. But Tottenham could bring the fee down by writing off add-ons they agreed as part of Dele Alli's free transfer move in January. Everton are due to pay Spurs £10 million once the former England international has made 20 appearances for the club, and there are other performance-related add-ons. So that deal that saw Dele Alli move to Everton permanently in January was an initial free transfer, but Spurs will get different amounts of money based on how Dele Alli does there. I think it potentially is up to £50 million. It won't get there, I think we all know that. But the first one would be 20 appearances for Everton, and Tottenham get 10 million. Some of those, as Matt Law says, could be written off to help get that price down for Richarlison, which I think, depending on what the clauses in there are, that could be massively in favour for Tottenham. Because if there's a clause in there, for example, that says if Dele Alli scores 20 goals, Everton owe us 5 million, we could write off that clause, get 5 million off for Richarlison, and it's possible that Dele Alli never scores 20 goals for them, and it's 5 million that we wouldn't have gotten anyway. So depending on what the clauses are, Tottenham could actually make back money that they never would have got within this deal. I'm sure Everton will be very wary of that happening, but in the way that it works out, that this could be the case. Matt Law has also said from the Chelsea side of the deal, which he has very good sources on, he said there had been concerns within Spurs over Chelsea's interest in Richarlison, but the new owner Todd Bowley is pushing ahead with moves for Rafinha and Raheem Sterling, while Tottenham and Everton negotiate over Richarlison. So that's why Chelsea have not been competing for the Brazilian signature. Just before we went live, about 10 minutes ago, Fabrizio Romano tweeted that Tottenham have already scheduled a new round of talks for Richarlison, as you can see in the screen just below me. It's a work in progress with Everton, but the deal structure has to be discussed again. No issues on personal terms. So, like I said, it is just that structure. and how this deal will be paid. Again, with Everton and their financial situation, it adds probably another layer of complications within that, because they need to get deals done before the end of this financial year to help their financial situation. They also owe Watford 10% of any fee they bring in, so it will be in their best interest to get a player in return, or to use that Dele Alli deal to write off debts that they have to Tottenham, to get that fee for Richarlison lower, so they lose less money in the deal, sending it on to Watford. So there's so many different complications and so many moving parts within this one that it could just take that little bit longer to get done. But it's not through any fault of Tottenham. It's not through any. It's not through Daniel Levy leading the deal instead of Fabio Paratici. It just is a complicated deal, and we need to do what we can to get the best deal for both clubs. So I think we might need to be a little bit patient in this one. Chris, thank you very much for a very, very generous super chat. I do really appreciate that. Says, great stuff, Matt. Always a great roundup of what's gone on during the day and breaking through the crap. Keep up the great work, bud. Chris, I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much for the support, and it is my pleasure to bring these streams to you on a hopefully what will be a nightly basis going forward in the rest of the summer. Romano has also said, as we were told yesterday, that Harry Winks has also been discussed as being included in a deal, but it is believed that Everton rejected that premise. They, as we'll talk about a little bit later, would prefer a loan move for Harry Winks, which probably wouldn't get much money off the deal for Tottenham. So again, it's another layer of difficulties within this one. Lyle Thomas has said that Tottenham remain hopeful of signing not only Richarlison but also Anthony Gordon. We'll have a few updates on him in a second, but Lyle Thomas saying that we're still hopeful of a package deal. Paul Joyce of the Times Sport has told us what we heard from a former BBC correspondent yesterday, that Everton chairman Bill Kenwright met with Daniel Levy on Monday evening. On Monday night they went out for dinner. A little bit of extra detail. Paul Joyce has said they met regarding Richarlison, but a deal would have to cost significantly more than the £43 million Everton paid Watford for his services in the past. So the deal, I suppose, he would cost that much. The value of the deal will be a lot more than that £43 million. But again, maybe in terms of how much we actually pay the club in stone cold cash, it could be a little bit different. Paul Joyce has also said that Antonio Conte sees Richarlison as a player that can compete for places in the forward areas. A player who, as we mentioned, could be on the way potentially with Richarlison. At the moment, it is looking somewhat unlikely, but it's one that Tottenham are still pursuing. Alistair Gold has said that Anthony Gordon would be keen on the move to play Champions League football under Conte, but would not ask to leave his hometown club. So he said that Tottenham have inquired about Anthony Gordon, and he would be open to the move, but he doesn't want to put in a transfer request, or he doesn't want to, kind of force Everton's hand into a move. He's happy there. It's his hometown club. It's his boyhood club. If a deal is agreed, he would be happy to make that move, but it doesn't seem to be a priority for him right now, which, look, I kind of respect. If he does move on, who knows, will he ever get that chance to go back to Everton? If he wants to play with his club, now is probably the best time to do that, and if he's good enough, he'll get that move in the future anyway. So I think it's probably a very unlikely move at this point in time, because you'd have to ask as well how much Tottenham would actually have to pay for Anthony Gordon. And when we have such gaping holes in our starting 11 that we need to plug in this summer with potentially high value deals, can we afford to spend 30, 40, 50 million on an Anthony Gordon who really is just a prospect for the future? I personally don't think that's a very wise one to pursue this window. But as we mentioned a second ago, Lyle Thomas has also said that Tottenham remain hopeful of agreeing a package deal for Richarlison and Anthony Gordon. Now onto the left centre-back, or the centre-back that has been all over the news for Tottenham today, and that is Barcelona left centre-back Clement Longley. Alistair Gold has told us that Clement Longley turned down a loan move to Spurs last summer, but he could be an option for the club to turn back on this window if they cannot secure their first choice targets in the role, which is essentially what I assume this deal was all along. And I said it yesterday in our stream as well, that not only the calibre of the target, not only the profile of Clement Longley, but the structure of a potential deal to bring him in, that's a stopgap. That's not a number one target. That's not an out-and-out priority. Because it's such an important position, we're going to need, as the Athletic, as Jack Pitbrook has been telling us all summer, a Romero amount of money for a deal to get done. So it's a very, very strange turnaround if we were then willing to bring in a Clement Longley on loan to fill that gap, or not to fill that gap, but to be that main centre back for us. So again, I just don't think he is the number one target out there. Again, there's a lot of reports in the Spanish media that suggest this one is very, very close to completion. Before we get onto that, a bit more context, Alistair Gold is saying that Clement Longley is viewed as a potential addition to be able to cover both the left and centre of Tottenham's back three. So as cover for be able to play in two different positions. And if we are going to be getting two centre-backs, which Alistair Gold today has told us that the plan is to bring in two centre-backs, he's that backup man. So maybe this is a priority for Tottenham, but it's as a backup centre-back. It's not as that starting left centre-back. It's not as that main centre-back target that we're going to have in this window. And he has the ability to play on the left and in the centre. So, he does fill a couple of holes for us, and in that regard, it would be a good move. I mean, look, I know a lot of people are very keen on a move if he was going to be that first centre-back to play on the left, to potentially take that position of Ben Davies, but for me, it's the more than anything, it's the fact that it's a loan move. I just don't think it is a priority. I don't think he is that main man out on that side. Guardian Sport gone in a little bit a different direction, saying that Tottenham are ready to pull the plug on their attempts to sign Clement Longley, as the defender seems unenthused by the idea of joining Spurs. They've said that the defender is on holiday and has not been returning the calls from Tottenham over a deal. So, want to take a look. I think it was Barry Glendenning who reported that. I'm not sure if he's a particularly good source, but the Guardian do have some good stories sometimes, so I thought I'd bring that one to you. Now, looking at the Spanish side of the media, the only report here that I actually have something of an idea on the source is the first one from Marca, who can be very good, but also kind of tend to spin the narrative and spin the story that suits the Spanish clubs within these deals sometimes. They've said that Clement Longley is one step away from the Tottenham deal after agreeing to the move. Now, there's 5 other reports here from sources that I can honestly tell you I know nothing about. El Periodico are saying that Tottenham have intensified talks with Barcelona regarding Clement Longley in the last hours, and a loan deal with a €5 million fee and mandatory purchase option has been proposed. RAC1 are telling us that Clement Longley is very close to completing the move on loan. Shayla Gassi says that an agreement between Tottenham and Barcelona is approaching over a deal for Clement Longley. Spurs will pay a loan fee of around €5 to €6 million and a large part of his salary. When we first heard about this Longley deal, the salary was a big stumbling block for Tottenham. I'm not exactly sure what the numbers were, but it was one that Tottenham just weren't willing to cover in full. Barcelona maybe coming to agreement there to cover some of that. Roger Torello and Rashad Rahman say that Longley to Spurs on loan is gaining momentum. A full agreement is yet to be reached, but this option is the most feasible right now. And finally, Santiago Valle says the most probable option as of right now for Clement Longley is a move to Spurs on loan. So the Spanish side of this telling us that this is going to happen. Really, this is very close to happening. I put a poll in the live chat saying, will we go through a Clement Longley analysis piece during the stream? 69% of you have said yes. 31% have said no, so we'll have a quick look through it. It wasn't exactly it wasn't overwhelming victory, but a lot of you do want that, so we'll have a quick look at a tactical analysis courtesy of coachesvoice.com. They say that as a defender, Longley provides superb central cover for his goalkeeper. The Frenchman is more than willing to put his body on the line to block shots, crosses, passes, and generally anything within the central lane of the pitch. His commitment and desire in the tackle is reminiscent of former England centre-backs John Terry and Jamie Carragher, as his recovering tackles often save certain goals. So we'll ignore the comparison to John Terry there and pretend we didn't hear that, but putting his body on the line, blocking shots, blocking passes, throwing in tackles, getting in the end of crosses, it seems like kind of the basic that you would need from a centre-back and the very minimum that you would ask from them, but we've seen certain players at Tottenham in recent years that didn't quite do that, so it's a good place to start. His strength in the last gasp tackle might raise a question mark over his positioning, however, and indeed his ability to deal with danger long before the ball has reached the penalty area. Surely world-class central defenders are rarely seen making regular make-or-break tackles in front of goal. Rather, they will have blocked off the incoming danger already. And I think Paolo Maldini was quoted as saying, if he makes a tackle, he's already made a mistake. I do think that is a bit of an exaggeration, but if you are known for last-line tackles, for clearances off the line, you would have to question your ability to read the danger, as it says there, but also your ability to stop that before it becomes a very, very big problem where you need a last gasp clearance or something to get rid of it. But look at the bright side. He's good at clearing last line danger. Longley can be caught out when drawn into wide areas or the inside channels, as his body shape doesn't help him block incoming crosses from these wider positions, and while by no means slow, he can be exposed when up against an opponent with raw pace and acceleration. When drawn out of position, Longley can be beaten by wingers or marauding fullbacks, which then leads to subsequent crosses into the penalty area from the byline. And that is a concern if he is going to be playing the left centre-back position, because with how advanced our fullbacks like to get, whether it's Sessegnon or Perisic, he is going to be having to cover that wide area. If we're being caught in the counter-attack or something like that, he will quite often be faced one-on-one with wingers. Hopefully we'll have a Højbjerg or a Bentancur or a Basuma coming back to cover, but he will be facing wingers in one-on-one battles like that quite often. So if he's not good in that position, there's an immediate concern right there. A left footer who is more than comfortable in possession. Longley's main weapon is an ability to accurately hit passes over great length. His switching of play out to the right side in particular can be a hugely effective tool, especially when married with a fast and direct right-sided winger. His aerial balls over the left side are still effective, although more predictable because of a reduced angle of delivery, and that is a huge bonus. That is a very, very important part of what Tottenham tried to do under Conte last season, and what we will continue to do when we're attacking down that left-hand side where Longley, if he does play for Spurs, may be involved in that possession. We're going to be stretching that pitch so far on the other side, whether it's Emerson Royale or Djed Spence or Matt Doherty or even Dejan Kulusevski, who's staying out wide, keeping stuck right out to that other touchline, keeping the play stretch as much as possible, having someone like Longley who can play that crossfield ball into a good position, so whoever it is out there has that space, gets the ball under control, it's a good pass, has that space to move into. That will be a massive tool for us. But as much as we do need a defender who can play on the ball and who can, create attacks like Christian Romero did against Liverpool, for example, really intelligent passes to break the lines. That's fantastic to have in a centre-back, but he needs to have that defensive ability as well. KM in the chat saying Longley surprisingly has better stats than most left centre-backs other than Josko Vardiol and Evan Ndika. Look, I've seen a lot of people talking about his stats, and apparently the numbers are very, very favourable for Clement Longley. And look, stats, I love stats. I mean, it's my job. I work in football data collection, but they're not everything. And you do need, as Euro expert, a good friend of the channel, always says, you do need the eye test as well. And from talking to Barcelona fans, Longley just doesn't pass that. And every Barcelona fan I've seen talking about the steal, we had one in the live chat before we even got started, saying that we can have him. We can have Longley, and any Barcelona fan I've spoken to has said the exact same. So there's definitely two sides to this story. Like I've said, with every transfer target, if Conte wants him and if Fabio Paratici wants him, get him in as a priority. Like I said, with Richarlison, I'll head to wherever he is, I'll put him on my back and I'll walk him to Hotspur Way to get that deal done. But from a personal perspective, I am slightly sceptical about a deal. Look, as Daniel says there, Juventus fans all said Bentancur was no good. Some of them did. I know there were some that didn't, but some Juventus fans were very happy to see the back of Bentancur and Kulusevski, and we know how that worked out. So look, this one is maybe a bit more of an enigma, but again, if it's one that the two Italians in charge want, it's one that I would definitely love to see get done as well. Onto Jed Spence, and one that the two Italians definitely aren't in charge of. Alistair Gold has said that Tottenham are yet to strike a deal for Middlesbrough defender Jed Spence, with a 21-year-old understood to be keen on a move to the North London club. So again, we know very well that Jed Spence wants this move to Tottenham. He would be happy, more than happy, obviously he would. We're in the Champions League to play for the club, but a deal is yet to be struck. Matt Law has said that Tottenham are actually still expected to sign Jed Spence. The Guardian Sport, again, Barry Glendenning, bringing us all the negative news today, says Tottenham could miss out on Jed Spence, with Middlesbrough growing irritated by the lack of a serious offer and ready to sell him to Nottingham Forest instead. Now, what I would say about not really being too concerned about that is, of course, Jed Spence would have to agree to that, and if there's any chance of joining Tottenham, I think he'd be happy to put on the brakes and a potential move to Forest to see where Tottenham go with this one. But look, as we heard yesterday, Alistair Gold said that Tottenham are prepared to move on to other targets if they can't agree a deal for Jed Spence. Now, from a less reliable report from Football Insider, they've said that Tottenham are now just £1 million short of meeting Middlesbrough's asking price for Jed Spence. All parties remain confident an agreement will be reached. So Football Insider, as I've always said, for EFL and Leeds are quite reliable. I don't know exactly what their kind of sources are like with Middlesbrough, what they've had with stories in the past, but take it with a pinch of salt, but one that could be true. But if it is £1 million, as Mike Day says there, £1 million, if it is that much, you'd really just question why Tottenham don't just stump it up. We have 100 to play with. One isn't going to make that much of a difference. It'll make a big difference to a championship team like Middlesbrough, but it'll make no difference to Tottenham, especially if he is such a high target for us. But again, this is one that's dragging on way too long. So there are other right back targets out there. If this doesn't happen, we will get what I would assume would be a better right back. But this is, or so we're told, Conte's number one choice. So let's see how it does pan out. A few other bits. Alistair Gold has said that Tottenham will monitor the transfer market for any opportunities when it comes to forward signings throughout the summer, in case they find something too good to turn down. Fabrizio Romano says that Tottenham are not working on a bid for Inter Milan's Lautaro Martinez. They are focused on completing a deal for Richarlison. And Guardian Sport as well say that Tottenham are again interested in signing Milan Skriniar, but how slow they are moving in the transfer window could allow Chelsea to nip in and sign him instead. Alessandro Bastoni's name was mentioned again today, and I got very, very excited. Not really in any serious context, but everyone knows how much I want him. It won't happen, but I did get a little bit excited again. On to the outgoings, and Harry Winks, one of the players that we're expecting to see move on. Alistair Gold has said that Everton are currently the main option for Harry Winks, with Frank Lampard keen for a second successive transfer window on bringing the midfielder to Goodison Park. The Toffees' financial fair play problems, despite an expected takeover, means they have been looking at a potential loan deal for the 26-year-old, although he could be used as part of the move for Richarlison, with Everton also potentially having further payments to make on their January signing of Dele Alli from Spurs. Now, on the point of that takeover, Alan Myers, formerly of Sky Sports, a Tier 1 source for Everton, has said he doesn't think there have been any bids for Everton in that potential sale of the club. So that financial situation could just continue to get worse before it gets better, which would definitely be in the interest of Tottenham with the two players we're trying to pluck out of there. But Winks is one that looks to be dragging on again for quite a while. And the one that's been dragging on since January, Steven Bergwijn. Oliver Freeman says, great work, Matt. First time in ages I've seen your stream live. Usually get on playback. Thanks very much, Oliver. I appreciate it. Romano's latest tweet would suggest Spurs are going for a different right back to Spence. So that tweet from Romano, we brought you the first part of that a while ago, but with regards to, let's get Bergwijn off the screen there, with regards to Richarlison and the new scheduled talks, he said that Spurs are also working to sign new right back. So that could be Jed Spence. It could be a new right back that hasn't been named, or we're pursuing a new deal. But I do think he would have specified if the Jed Spence deal was off or something like that. So I don't think there's too much to bring into that one. Alistair Gold has tweeted 1 minute ago. Dark Wolf says Ali Gold Bamba. Alistair Gold has tweeted, understand Spurs are hopeful of agreeing a fee for Richarlison with Everton within the next 24 hours, as the Toffees need to before the financial fair play deadline. So that is a bit of breaking news this Wednesday evening on Richarlison, live on stream. We got a bit of breaking news. I won't play the graphics. I'm trying to get sound on it. But Alistair Gold has given us some info on this. So before we talk about Bergwijn, we'll go back to the thumbnail character for this stream, and we'll go through Alistair Gold's latest article. He has said that Tottenham are hopeful of agreeing a fee with Everton for Richarlison within the next 24 hours in order to beat the financial fair play deadline. We've been talking about this all week. I think I was speaking about it towards the end of last week as well. By the end of the current financial year, which is tomorrow, the 30th of June, Everton need to make some money because they're playing very, very dangerously with the financial fair play regulations. We know that Burnley and Leeds were actually considering reporting Everton to the Premier League for their financial activities. They need to get some money in, and they need to get it as quickly as possible. Gold continues to say the two clubs have been locked in talks over the structure of a deal for the 25-year-old Brazil international, and while nothing has been agreed with either Everton or the player yet, there is a hope that Spurs and the Toffees will come to an agreement on the fee for the winger before the end of Thursday due to this financial fair play deadline. Everton are facing financial fair play issues, and the current time period for that ends on June 30th, but Football London understands that if the two clubs can come to an agreement over the fee for Richarlison before the end of that day and provide evidence of that agreement, then the remainder of the transfer can be completed within the days after that agreement and still count towards the last year of financial fair play. That places some pressure on Everton to get that fee agreed with Spurs before the deadline arrives on Thursday. So essentially, we're in a very similar position to what we knew, that Everton need to get this done before tomorrow. But what Alistair Gold has brought us today, an update that I haven't seen any sort of detail like that before, that if Everton can agree a deal, no matter how long, if it's completed in the following days, because the deal was agreed within this financial year, they can count that towards this financial year. So it gives, I suppose, in opposite ways. First of all, it gives them a bit more flexibility. It gives them a bit more time to actually get things over the line. But in terms of agreeing a fee with Tottenham, that puts the cards massively in our favour and says that we need to get that agreed before the end of tomorrow, which is very, very good news for Spurs. Before we continue on with that article, if you haven't already, please do make sure to hit that like button down below. We've 944 people watching. How many likes are we on? Only 187. Let's get that number up to 300 if you're happy that Richarlison could be done by tomorrow. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well while you're down there. Gold finally says, although terms have not yet been finalised for Richarlison, there is not expected to be any issues with that once a fee is agreed, and the transfer is expected to move quickly from that point forward. The Brazilian is currently on his holidays after completing his recent international duty with his country, and would like to return to the UK to undergo a medical if it was not undertaken abroad. So Tottenham very, very close to this transfer. The confidence has been growing and growing and growing, and we have a bit of a time frame on it now that a deal is expected to be agreed before the end of tomorrow, and that is just fantastic news for Spurs. And look, another reason that we knew this one was coming was because Charlie Eccleshare told us that, Charlie Eccleshare told us that with regards to Steven Bergwijn, a deal for him to join Ajax was expected to be finalised on or after the 1st of July. Now, there's still no agreement there, so that one could drag on for longer. But he said that Tottenham wanted to bring in a replacement before we let him go, and that replacement is looking to be Richarlison. But Fabrizio Romano has told us in the last 24 hours on Steven Bergwijn that talks are continuing between Tottenham and Ajax to try and find an agreement for Steven Bergwijn. The Ajax boss Alfred Schroeder said, nothing is done for Bergwijn, we just have to wait. It's a very refreshing insight into transfers that you always get from Ajax, especially. There's some European teams that do it, but they're they don't hide the fact that they're trying to get him. They say it there, we're trying to get the player. Louis van Gaal as well was talking about how he wants the player to join Ajax. You get a lot more transparency from Dutch clubs, especially Ajax, on these transfers, which it's just refreshing, I suppose. As we mentioned yesterday, Michael Bridge said that Tottenham are growing frustrated with Ajax in their attempts to sign Steven Bergwijn. They are not putting up the money that Tottenham want. Hopefully that'll change soon, but as we know, Everton are now one of 3 Premier League teams in the race for Steven Bergwijn now as well. An interesting update. It was about half an hour before we went live. Emerson Royale, Alistair Gold told us yesterday that Tottenham are willing to listen to offers for Sergio Reguilón and Emerson Royale, but both players are believed to want to stay at Tottenham this summer. Now, Emerson Royale's representative, Dr. Fabiano De Abro, in the last hour or so has said that Emerson does not leave Tottenham. I assume Emerson will not leave Tottenham. In fact, Antonio Conte said that even if it was for 40 million euros, the loan would not come out since he has the player as number 1 in his position. Royale is happy in the team. So Emerson Royale's representative is claiming that Antonio Conte has told Emerson he's the number 1 choice right back, number 1 choice right wing back for the season ahead. I'm not sure how true that is. I don't think. Although, look, it could explain why Jed Spence is our key target in right back. Because I've said all along, I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's experienced enough to be a starting right back in this team for us. Maybe he's not. I thought we'd have to sign another right back to be that starting player, but maybe that just is Emerson Royale. It's concerning. It's concerning if it is. Justin says I really like Royale. Look, I love Royale as well. As everyone who watches this channel regularly knows, he's on my where is it? There he is. He's my screensaver holding up that flare in the game against Arsenal. But look, I don't think he's good enough to be our starting right back, and he did well towards the end of last season. Let's give him credit where it's due, but I don't know how much we can really trust him over the course of a full season. Looking for any more updates on Richarlison, but we're not getting any at the moment. Just bring you through a few lesser / unknown reliability reports, as we always do at the end of these, and then we have a few other stories to get through, some very important stories. Graham Bailey from 90 Minutes said that Tottenham and Newcastle are interested in signing former Spurs youngster Noni Madueke. Sean Walsh, also of 90 Minutes, says that Torino sporting director Davide Vagnati is heading to London to hold talks with several Premier League sides over a transfer for Gleison Bremer, including Tottenham. Ekrem Koner is claiming that Tottenham are planning a £25 million bid for 20-year-old Bayer Leverkusen centre-back Piero Hincapié. Pete O'Rourke says that Atletico Madrid have submitted a bid for Tottenham defender Emerson Royale in a permanent deal. Forgot to mention a second ago that Sky Sports said the same, that Atletico Madrid have made an offer to sign Emerson, but as it stands, Tottenham have no intention of allowing him to leave. Finally, El Periodico said that Antonio Conte has recommended left-back Pervis Estupiñán to the Tottenham hierarchy, and Villarreal know of their interest. It's the second time Estupiñán's name has come up this summer. A few other stories. Alistair Gold says that Spurs are in advanced talks with specialist set-piece coach Gianno Vio to boost Antonio Conte's staff, although a deal is not yet finalised nor his arrival imminent. Vio has worked with the Italian national team as well as having had spells at AC Milan, Leeds United, Brentford and Fiorentina, and the experienced coach and former banker is credited with making Italy a force from set-piece as they won Euro 2020, and he has reportedly designed 4,380 different routines. So this is the man who, look, I've never understood the point of a set piece coach, but Tottenham were quite poor from set pieces last season, and if he is as good as people claim, well then it can't be a bad thing, I suppose. Our final story. Yves Bissouma, according to a number of different sources, has been cleared of sexual assault allegations made against him last October. So look, there was definitely concern. There was concern from me. I was kind of unhappy when we completed that signing with those allegations still hanging over his head. But he has been cleared now. A spokesman for Sussex Police said a man in his 20s, also from Brighton, who was arrested on suspicion of sexual assault, has been released with no further action to be taken. So Yves Bissouma released with no further action to be taken. He was released under investigation up until this point, but no further action will be taken on the now Spurs midfielder. Let's look through the chat. Let's get a few questions from the live chat. Carol says, is Alessandro Bastoni still active? He's still a target. Tottenham haven't given up on that yet. He is still a target and a player that we could look to bring in this window, but it's just so unlikely. I think Inter Milan were in an almost identical situation to Everton, where they needed, or so we were told, they needed to sort out their financial situation before the end of the current financial year, which again for them is tomorrow. Skriniar, that move to PSG looks to be in doubt. Lautaro Martinez doesn't want to go anywhere. Nicolo Barella hasn't really been linked with anybody. They need a big sale, especially with Lukaku coming back in on loan, potential signing of Dybala. And I know those aren't big transfer fees or anything, but it's adding a lot to their wage bill, which they also need to reduce. So I really don't understand how Inter Milan aren't making a big sale. So that's the one bit of hope I'm clinging on to for Bastoni. But I really don't think that move will happen. The Bertie Hosper says, why aren't we looking at the left-footed centre-back Lisandro Martinez? The only reason I can think of why we're not looking on that is he's 5'9", and I think it was Ellis Parish, who's a massive supporter of this channel, put it up on Twitter how Antonio Conte is kind of transforming the physical aspect of the squad, and we've replaced Winks with Basuma. Basuma is much taller. We've replaced Reguilon with Perisic as an increase in height. We're just trying to build a big physical team, and Sandro Martinez just doesn't fit into that, to be honest. He's only 5'9" for a centre back. I wouldn't be too keen on going for that. Dark Wolf says, do you know why everything on Torres has gone silent? I don't. I'm kind of confused why it did. I did feel that night when was it Gianluca Di Marzio, was it Sky Sports in Italy, came out and said that Tottenham were trying to get that move done for Torres in between entering talks for Bastoni, and 12 hours later his agent coming out and saying he was staying. I did feel as though that was put out there to try and force Inter Milan's hand, and essentially it did, just not in the direction that we wanted. So I don't think it was ever really as advanced as it was said there, but in the same breath it could be a done deal. For all we know, Pau Torres could be at Hotspur Way right now having his medical with the way Paratici works, but we're going to be, I think the centre back is where Paratici is going to do his classic negotiate for Torres, for Ndika, for Longley, for whoever it is, and try and get that best deal possible. And I would really hope that it is a centre back that we're happy with. Carl as well says, I think Torres is on and that's why it's so quiet. Again, it's possible. Jonathan says, any news on Sasha Kaladzic? I think the last we heard is that he's actually looking likely to go to Bayern Munich, probably as a replacement, or one of the replacements for Robert Lewandowski, as Barcelona up their bid for him. AJ says, if we do get the players we are after, how far do you think we'll get in the Champions League? To be honest, I can't see us getting past the round of 16 quarter-final, and I'm not too bothered by that. When there was a lot of kind of jokes when we got into the Champions League that we weren't really going to go for it, because we get into the Champions League, use that in the summer to attract the big players that we wanted to get in, get knocked out in the group stage, and then for the second half of the season have Antonio Conte with one game a week like we did towards the tail end of last season, and really push domestically. I'd rather we didn't. I want to achieve something in the Champions League, but I'd say quarterfinal is probably our limit in that. Antonio Conte typically doesn't focus too much on European football, and look, maybe that'll change. Maybe it's just the culture of the clubs he's been at. Maybe they don't worry too much about that sort of stuff. But I'm hoping that is the case, that he will take it a bit more seriously when he gets in there with Spurs. Junior says Ndika is a perfect player, and last year in his contract, I don't understand why it's not done. Look, there's probably other targets that are in there. It's not as easy as having one player and just immediately going out to get that done. I'd kind of be concerned if that was the case. I'm happy that they're exploring different opportunities and negotiating for different players to get the best deal that we can in this window. Lots of people mentioning Hakimi. Do you know what? I would love Hakimi. No, I was going to say I'd love Hakimi more than Bastoni. That's a lie. I'm not going to say that. But I would love Hakimi nearly as much as I would love Bastoni. But it's just not going to happen. I said it to Lyle Thomas on Last Word on Spurs last week, and he said, you wish. Zachariah says, what about Hincapié? There's been nothing reliable on him yet. There's been a lot of reports, but nothing reliable. So I'm not getting too excited about that one at the moment. Spurs Report says, Vardy, Altares or Bastoni, and Spence or Longley and Hakimi. Vardy, Altares or Bastoni and Spence. Oh, sorry, I see what you mean. Which two would I take? Vardy, Altares, I suppose. Ideally, Bastoni and Hakimi, but look, let's be real here. Rocco says, any news on Jack Clark or Matar Sarr? Jack Clark has most recently been linked to Everton. I wouldn't be surprised if Clark does go permanently this summer. I think it'll be a loan, but it wouldn't be surprising if it is a permanent deal. And Sarr, I assume, will be loaned out as well. There's too many options in that midfield. I mean, essentially, we've 6 options better than him if you include Ndombele and Lo Celso, but I wouldn't include them for obvious reasons. But yeah, I wouldn't expect to see either of them in the Spurs first team next season. Lorcan says, anyone notice a similarity between the Spence deal and the Bergwijn deal? Us and Burrow in the same situation, and us and Ajax trying to sell the player. That is very true, to be honest. We're getting annoyed at Ajax for not paying up. We're probably doing the exact same thing with who are we talking about? Jed Spence as well. Juliet says, Matt, what are your expectations for us next season with all the signings we've made? I've said it a few times, and look, it may be somewhat negative, but third, I think, is our limit. We're just too far behind City and Liverpool. They're just too good. As much as I'd love to compete with them, I just don't really see it happening. But yeah, I'm sure we'll compete for one of the domestic cups at least, and hopefully have a good run in the Champions League too. Now, I have a very important task for all 1,003 of you that are watching. For those who watch this channel regularly, we like to share the love and share the support across the rest of the Tottenham community. Tottenham on Tour are live right now doing a Tottenham Ask Us Anything transfer edition. We got Brian Ireland, Brian Daigle and Danny Kiriakou. So what I need every single one of you 1,000 to do is, first of all, smash the like button down below if you've enjoyed this stream. Hit the subscribe button as well if you haven't already and you want more of these transfer updates throughout the summer. But most of all, hit that link that I've put into the live chat for the Tottenham on Tour stream. Head over there. Say Matt Hayes raid, Matt Hayes sent me, just something about Matt Hayes, and let them know where you're coming from, and make sure to show that support to that channel as well. Some fantastic people that I'm happy to call friends, doing some brilliant Tottenham content, so please do hit that link in the chat, say Matt Hayes raid, show some love to Brian and Danny, but make sure to come back here tomorrow night at 7 PM again. We'll be live, hopefully. Or maybe we could be live a little bit earlier if we do get news on Richarlison and a deal agreed with Everton. So do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you can keep up to date with all of the content on this channel. But from me, for now, and as always, thank you so much for watching.